So the Mosin Nagant, the new DLC weapon coming up in this Christmas update. So, you know, a bolt-action rifle for sharpshooter, that's pretty cool. So, okay, so let's go over what's unique about this weapon. Well, first of all, it has, you know, a bayonet on the front, so its melee attack is decently strong, which is mostly useful against like single clots or single crawlers if you want to like save ammo. But other than that, the melee is still not that useful because you're playing sharp, you're playing a hit scan perk, you want to shoot your guns. So yeah. And then you can actually parry with this weapon, which is pretty unique. This is, you know, the first gun you can actually parry with, which is pretty useful against raged flesh pounds. Like when a flesh pound spawns in raged, you know, you can derage it by just parry it and then go for the takedown right afterward. And then something that is actually really good about this weapon is that it has a ton of stun power. In fact, it has so much stun power. In set time, you can stun a flesh pound with a single shot with Ranger. So that's pretty good. Yeah, but let's open up the trader and look at the weapon. As you can see, the damage looks pretty low, like if compared to the centerfire. This is not true, this is actually the bayonet's damage, so just completely ignore that. Yeah, you can already see, you know, it has good penetration, it has 3 penetration, which is pretty nice, although it doesn't matter too much. And it also had pretty good damage. I think the damage is 250 base at tier 3. Which is pretty good. Compare that to the centerfire, which have 165. That's quite a bit of extra damage, but again, the centerfire shoots faster. Yeah, also it weighs 7 kg, and it's also a tier 3, just like the M14, so it's mainly like competing against the M14 when it comes to earlier game buys, which the M14 is like an excellent earlier game buy, because the M14 can deal with bigs, mediums, and smalls. It's a super versatile weapon, the M14. If you have ever played Sharp before, you know how versatile the M14 is. So yeah. So let's go over big set takedowns, because that's the most important part about a weapon on Sharp that deals a lot of damage. You mainly want to use it against certain mediums, but mainly want to use it against big sets if you have 2 weapons. So how good is it against big sets? Well, at tier 3, I would say it's a little bit underwhelming. Something to note though, since it has a ton of stun power, it's actually a pretty decent ballistic shot weapon, because outside of set time you can stun a Scrake in 2 shots. If the first shot is a headshot, which it's always going to be because it's very easy to hit a headshot against an unraged Scrake, the second shot can actually be a body shot, and you can stun it like that. I'm probably going to show a clip here to demonstrate that. So it's a pretty good ballistic shock weapon, which you can combo this with the M14 with ballistic shock if you like to play a little bit more mobile and support type of sharpshooter that is mainly stunning things, mainly Scrakes, but in set time you're also stunning flesh bounds, which of course is a pretty decent support role you can have as sharp, because you're still a sharpshooter. You're going to activate set time a lot more often for your teammates. So yeah, the Mosin is a pretty good ballistic shock weapon, although for a more common setup for sharpshooter, which is, you know, marksman, stability, rack 'em up, Deadeye, and Ranger, I would definitely say this weapon is underwhelming, especially at tier 3. So, flesh pounds. What's bad about flesh pounds is that without any rack 'em up, you need all 5 shots to kill it. So against a tier 3 flesh pound, what I would recommend, especially if you don't have any rack 'em up stacks, is that you shoot 3 shots with your 9mm and then go for the takedown, because then you can save a shot. So that's something important to remember if you don't have rack 'em up stacked already when you're going for a flesh pound takedown. Against Scrakes, same thing with Scrakes. If you don't have rack 'em up, shoot 2 shots in the Scrake side and then go for the takedown, because then you can kill it in 3 shots. Otherwise, you're going to kill it in 4 shots, which... Let's lose rack 'em up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, as you saw, 4 shots, even if I was using Deadeye. If you don't have rack 'em up already stacked, but if you have 2 stacks already, you can just go for the takedown straight away, because 2 rack 'em up stacks is enough to 3-shot it, but I think you need Deadeye on your first. Don't remember exactly, but still I would recommend to at least have 3 rack 'em up stacks before starting a straight takedown with this thing with, you know, this setup. With Ballistic Shock, you just go for the takedown straight because you're going to stun it in 2-shot anyway, so yeah, that's a pretty easy takedown if you're using Ballistic Shock. But when you start to upgrade this weapon, well, it becomes a completely different story. Why? Because against Flesh Pounds, even without rack 'em up, if your first shot is a Deadeye shot... Oh, I got set time, nice. If your first shot is a Deadeye shot, you will kill it in 4 shots. So that's pretty nice. Against Griggs, without any rack 'em up stacks, you're going to kill it in 3 shots. So that way you're going to save a shot if you don't have rack 'em up stacked, which is pretty nice. So I would definitely recommend, if you're going to use this weapon, I would recommend upgrading it at least once. I still feel like tier 5 isn't really necessary. I feel like tier 4 is a sweet spot for this weapon. Because, you know, 3 headshots to kill a Scrake, and 4 headshots to kill a Fleshpound. If you don't have rack 'em up stack, 1 shot needs to be a Deadeye shot, but your first shot is most of the time going to be a Deadeye shot anyway. And when you upgrade it, now it's going to weigh 8 kilograms, so you can still, you know, run an M14 with you, which is also why I would recommend not upgrading it further. Because the M14 is so good, especially, you know, with this setup, which is, you know, the main setup I would actually recommend where you upgrade it. With a Ballistic Shock setup, I still feel like the M14 is better to upgrade if you're running both of these weapons with Ballistic Shock. Yeah, but without Ballistic Shock, I would definitely recommend upgrading the Mosin, because the M14 is already so good at tier 3 with the, you know, this setup. Oh, yeah. But here comes the problem though, is when you upgrade it, now it's competing against probably the most versatile weapon for Sharp, which is the FM Fall. And if you have used the FM Fall before, you know this weapon can destroy anything in the game, you know, outside of bosses, but it's still really good against bosses. Ammo becomes a problem really quickly. And, you know, against bosses, you still want to use the tier 5 rail anyway. But yeah, but on every single wave except for the boss wave, the FM Fall is so versatile, can kill Flesh Pound, Quarter Pound, Scrakes, every medium set and every small set in the game without, like, very easily. So yeah, and also you're going to score a ton of headshots with the Fall when you're going for big set takedowns, so if the set time is off cooldown, you get plenty of chances to activate set time, which is amazing with a full team of level 25s with a commando that is extending. So yeah, and as well, with King Floor 2, set time is going to buff everyone's DPS up by a lot. So set time is quite important in this game for, you know, if you want to play optimized. Which people do if they're playing CD control difficulty, or, you know, a modded difficulty that is more difficult than vanilla Hell on Earth. Yeah, but overall, Mosin Nagant, it's okay. It's definitely have a niche role as a high stun power rifle, which makes it pretty good to run with Ballistic Shock if you like to play sharpshooter with Ballistic Shock. So yeah, but other than that, I would still say, you know, Sharp have so many good weapons that for DPS, a lot of other weapons is already beating this thing. Centerfire is beating it, and, you know, it's also lighter. M14, I feel still is beating it, because M14 is so versatile. Paul is beating it by miles, so yeah. And the only, like, weapon is really beating is mainly the crossbow, but the crossbow isn't really that good to begin with. Yeah, overall, Mosin, it's unique, you know, you can pair with this thing, which is quite nice, and high stun power. Other than that, it's underperforming a little bit compared to other weapons on Sharp, but still a fun rifle to use. So yeah, I guess that's it. So